Hey there, and welcome back. You've hit the play button for NE Series number 12. Today we read from Genesis 22 and 23, Job 12, and the first half of Mark 8. The complete episode notes for this podcast are attached as a PDF file. Many podcast aggregator apps will not let you see these attachments. Using our dedicated DBRP listening app for either Apple or Android devices, you can get the PDF file by clicking on the wrapped present icon in the player. Or you can find the PDF file attached to this podcast at our website, dailybiblereading.info. This podcast is based upon scriptures from the New English Translation, which can be found at netbible.org. The copyright dates are from 1996 to 2018, and the net text is used by permission of Biblical Studies Press. See more complete information about all of my podcasts at dailybiblereading.info. Our Digging Deeper Facebook group is linked in today's episode notes. And now let's turn to Genesis 22 and 23. In our last reading in Genesis, Abraham deceived Abimelech, and Sarah demanded that Hagar and her son be sent away, which grieved Abraham. But remember that story because Paul uses it as a spiritual metaphor in Galatians 4. Finally, Abimelech visited Abraham, and the two made several formally ratified promises. Genesis 22. Sometime after these things, God tested Abraham. He said to him, "Abraham." "Here I am," Abraham replied. "Take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the land of Moriah. Offer him up there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains which I will indicate to you." Early in the morning, Abraham got up and saddled his donkey. He took 2 of his servants with him, along with his son Isaac. When he had cut the wood for the burnt offering, he started out for the place God had spoken to him about. On the 3rd day, Abraham caught sight of the place in the distance. So he said to his servants, "You two stay here with the donkey while the boy and I go up there. We'll worship and then return to you." Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and put it on his son Isaac. Then he took the fire and the knife in his hand, and the 2 of them walked on together. Isaac said to his father Abraham, "My father?" "What is it, my son?" "Here is the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" "God will provide for himself the lamb for the burnt offering, my son." The 2 of them continued on together. When they came to the place God had told him about, Abraham built the altar there and arranged the wood on it. Next he tied up his son Isaac and placed him on the altar on top of the wood. Then Abraham reached out his hand, took the knife, and prepared to slaughter his son. But the Lord's angel called to him, speaking for God in heaven, "Abraham, Abraham." "Here I am." "Do not harm the boy. Do not do anything to him, for I know that you fully respect and obey me, because you did not withhold your son, your only son, from me." Abraham looked up and saw behind him a ram caught in the bushes by its horns. So he went over and got the ram and offered it up as a burnt offering instead of his son. And Abraham called the name of the place, "The Lord Provides." It is said to this day, "In the mountain of the Lord provision will be made." the Lord's angel called to Abraham a second time from heaven and said, "I solemnly swear by my own name, decrees the Lord, that because you have done this and have not withheld your son, your only son, I will indeed bless you and will greatly multiply your descendants, so that they will be as countless as the stars in the sky or the grains of sand on the seashore. Your descendants will take possession of the strongholds of their enemies. Because you have obeyed me, all the nations of the earth will pronounce blessings on one another, using the name of your descendants." Then Abraham returned to his servants, and they set out together for Beer-sheba, where Abraham stayed. After these things, Abraham was told, "Milcah also has borne children to your brother Nahor. Uz, the firstborn, his brother Buz, Kemuel, the father of Aram, Kesed, Hazo, Pildash, Jidlaph, and Bethuel. Now Bethuel became the father of Rebekah. These were the 8 sons Milcah bore to Abraham's brother Nahor. His concubine, whose name was Reumah, also bore him children, Tebah, Gaham, Tahash, and Maacah. Genesis chapter 23. Sarah lived 127 years. Then she died in Kiriath-arba, that is, Hebron, in the land of Canaan. Abraham went to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. Then Abraham got up from mourning his dead wife and said to the sons of Heth, "I am a foreign resident, a temporary settler among you. Grant me ownership of a burial site among you, so that I may bury my dead." The sons of Heth answered Abraham, "Listen, sir, you are a mighty prince among us. You may bury your dead in the choicest of our tombs. None of us will refuse you his tomb to prevent you from burying your dead." Abraham got up and bowed down to the local people, the sons of Heth. Then he said to them, "If you agree that I may bury my dead, then hear me out. Ask Ephron the son of Zohar if he will sell me the cave of Machpelah that belongs to him. It is at the end of his field. Let him sell it to me publicly for the full price, so that I may own it as a burial site." Now Ephron was sitting among the sons of Heth. Ephron the Hittite replied to Abraham in the hearing of the sons of Heth, before all who entered the gate of his city, "No, my lord, hear me out. I give you both the field and the cave that is in it. In the presence of my people I give it to you. Bury your dead." Abraham bowed before the local people and said to Ephron in their hearing, "Hear me, if you will. I will pay to you the price of the field. Take it from me so that I may bury my dead there." Ephron answered Abraham, saying to him, "Hear me, my lord. The land is worth 400 pieces of silver, but what's that between me and you? So bury your dead." So Abraham agreed to Ephron's price, and weighed out for him the price that Ephron had quoted in the hearing of the sons of Heth, 400 pieces of silver, according to the standard measurement at the time. So Abraham secured Ephron's field in Machpelah next to Mamre, including the field, the cave that was in it, and all the trees that were in the field and all around its border, as his property in the presence of the sons of Heth, before all who entered the gate of Ephron's city. After this, Abraham buried his wife Sarah in the cave in the field of Machpelah next to Mamre, that is, Hebron, in the land of Canaan. So Abraham secured the field and the cave that was in it as a burial site from the sons of Heth. Let's turn now to Job chapter 12. In our last reading, Zophar said to Job, "Should not this abundance of words be answered? Is a person proved innocent just by a lot of talking? Should people remain silent at your idle talk, and should no one rebuke you when you mock God? You claim, 'My beliefs are pure, and I am clean in the sight of God.' But if only God would speak, if only He would tell you how wrong you are. If only He would tell you the secrets of wisdom, for true wisdom is not a simple matter. Listen, God is doubtless punishing you far less than you deserve." Having accused Job of sin in that way, Zophar then went on to give this lovely advice. "Put your heart right, Job. Reach out to God in prayer. Get sin completely out of your life. Don't let there be a shred of evil in your home. Then innocence will shine from your face for all to see, and you will be securely established and will not fear. Then all your troubles will fade from your memory like floods that are past and remembered no more." Job chapter 2, Job's reply to Zophar. Then Job answered, "Oh yeah, you people really know everything, don't you? And when you die, wisdom will die with you. I also have understanding as well as you. I'm not inferior to you. Who doesn't know such things as these? I am a laughingstock to my friends. I who called on God and whom He answered. A righteous and blameless man is now a laughingstock. You have no troubles, and yet you make fun of me. You give a push to someone who is about to fall. But thieves and godless people live in peace, though their only God is their own strength. But now ask the animals, and they'll teach you, or the birds of the sky, and they'll tell you, or speak to the earth, and it will teach you, or let the fish of the sea declare to you. All those things in nature know that it is the Lord who decides who meets with suffering or death. From the Lord, in whose hand is the life of every creature and the breath of all the human race. Let's use common sense. We test what our ears hear, just like our taste buds differentiate foods. Certainly, old people have wisdom, and those with gray hair have accumulated understanding. But God has both wisdom and power. Counsel and understanding are His. If He tears down, it can't be rebuilt. If He imprisons a person, there is no escape. If He holds back the waters, then they dry up. If He releases them, they destroy the land. God has strength that always gives victory. Both the deceived and the deceiver are in His power. He leads counselors away stripped of their good judgment, and wise judges become fools. He strips kings of their royal robes and leads them away as prisoners. He leads priests away, stripped of their high status, and overthrows men long established. He deprives the trusted advisers of speech and takes away the discernment of elders. He pours contempt on noblemen and disarms the powerful. He uncovers mysteries hidden in darkness and brings to light the deepest gloom. He makes nations great and then destroys them. He extends the boundaries of nations and then disperses them. He deprives the leaders of the earth of their understanding. He abandons them to wander in a trackless desert waste. They grope about in the darkness without light. He makes them stagger like drunkards. Let's turn now for our first reading in Mark chapter 8. In Mark 7, Jesus gave this very significant teaching. There is nothing that goes into you from the outside which can make you ritually unclean. Rather, it is what comes out of you that makes you unclean. And we heard the way that Jesus gave a difficult test to the Gentile woman. Don't just assume that Jesus was unfeeling to that woman. There's treasure to dig for there in that enigmatic test. Mark chapter 8. In those days there was another large crowd with nothing to eat. So Jesus called his disciples and said to them, I have compassion on the crowd, because they have already been here with me 3 days, and they have nothing to eat. If I send them home hungry, they will faint on the way, and some of them have come from a great distance. His disciples answered him, Where can someone get enough bread in this desolate place to satisfy these people? He asked them, How many loaves do you have? They replied, 7. Then he directed the crowd to sit down on the ground. After he took the 7 loaves and gave thanks, he broke them and began giving them to the disciples to serve. So they served the crowd. They also had a few small fish. After giving thanks for these, he told them to serve these as well. Everyone ate and was satisfied, and they picked up the broken pieces left over, 7 large baskets full. There were about 4,000 who ate. Then he dismissed them. Immediately he got into a boat with his disciples and went to the district of Dalmanutha. Then the Pharisees came and began to argue with Jesus, asking for a sign from heaven to test him. Sighing deeply in his spirit, he said, Why do you people look for a sign? I tell you the truth, no sign will be given to you evil people. Then he left them, got back into the boat, and went to the other side. Now they had forgotten to take bread, except for 1 loaf they had with them in the boat. And Jesus ordered them, Watch out, beware of the yeast of the Pharisees and the yeast of Herod. So they began to discuss with one another about having no bread. When he learned of this, Jesus said to them, Why are you arguing about having no bread? Do you still not see or understand? Have your hearts been hardened? Though you have eyes, don't you see? And though you have ears, can't you hear? Don't you remember? When I broke the 5 loaves for the 5,000, how many baskets full of pieces did you pick up? They replied, 12. When I broke the 7 loaves for the 4,000, how many large baskets full of pieces did you pick up? They replied, 7. Then he said to them, Do you still not understand? Please join me as I start us out in prayer. Our sovereign and all-powerful God, our Creator, thank you for providing. You provided the wonderful picture that Abraham has become for us. He said to his son, God will provide a lamb. And there on the mountain, you provided a lamb. You presented us with a picture of the sacrifice of Christ, your only Son. And later, at the same place, on a mount then called Calvary, Jesus fulfilled that picture for us. You have provided a lamb, a perfect sacrifice for us. Thank you, Lord. And Jesus provided bread for the people to eat. You, in effect, provided bread from heaven. And yet the Pharisees came and asked for a miracle to prove who he was. Lord, open our eyes and minds that we will see your miracles and beware of the yeast of the Pharisees and of Herod. Let us not be contaminated by this world's teachings. And today, in thanks for the sacrifice that Jesus made for us, take us as your servants. Thanks for sticking around for these comments, but I'm going to disappoint you. I have realized that either I cannot continue to give comments for each NE series podcast, or I will need to space the podcasts even farther apart. I also feel that giving comments like I've done for episodes 1 through 11 takes me into areas beyond my spiritual gifting. If making these podcasts were my full-time job, I would definitely continue. But my real job is as a Bible translator for the people of Indonesia. Recently, my work there has expanded from overseeing one major translation project to overseeing 2 of them. I hope this will help you understand my reason for not continuing with comments at this time. I don't rule out that I will decide to record comments for some future episode. This would have been a great episode to comment on if I had time. I love the interchange between Abraham and Isaac, which I referred to in the prayer, and also the way that points to what Christ fulfilled at Calvary. As Net's footnote for Genesis 22 verse 2 points out, Mount Moriah became Jerusalem and the location of the temple and Calvary. Now, if I don't give comments on such beautiful gems which you will find in the Net Bible, I invite you, dear friend, to share what you find at the Digging Deeper Facebook group. For you who have been listening to the comments, this would be a good time for you to give me feedback. You can do that through the contact link at dailybiblereading.info. May the Lord bless you real good.